What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Open Door Creative. Today with the guy who is the head of studio and has also announced a pick at the NFL draft, Mark Van Duinen. What's up, Mark?
What's going on, Kevin? How are you, man?
I'm good. So the reason I made this channel is to help people, get into the game, get into advertising. So I want you to think way back to when you started in advertising and kind of how you got in.
I'm a little bit older, so we'll just put that out there.
Like
Put that
30?
out there. No, a little bit older than that. At a young age, I always was picking up the pencil and the paper. Like, that was just what I did. My dad worked for General Electric. We moved every 2 years as he moved up throughout the company. And to be honest, I would have my mom buy me the brightest colored folders.
Yep.
And before I went to my first day of school, I would cover them with band logos and album covers and Star Wars and just whatever else I could.
Yep.
And then I kind of used those as billboards to make friends. I mean, to be honest, that was kind of like, when I think back of it, that's probably my first stint in advertising, was just creating these folders that other people would go, oh, you're into them, or oh, you like that? You know what I mean? And it was like, that's what I was doing. And I would actually go to people's house. I remember one guy, he taught me how to draw an X-Wing fighter. And that was like a big moment in my childhood.
Yeah, kids today don't go, hey, you want to come over and draw?
Yeah,
but
no.
That's a cool,
that's it. My mom would take us to, she would go to this used bookstore and we'd go through the comics, and I would actually pick out comics, not to read, but to draw the pictures.
Cool.
And I used to do that with albums and vinyl too. So I started there. My parents were very much behind it. When I got to college, however, I really didn't think you could make money in drawing and stuff.
Yep.
And I really wanted to be an illustrator, and I was kind of like, I didn't think I could make a lot of money.
Starving artist mentality.
Yeah, exactly. So I started with business management, and I went in that, and I did that for a while. And then I took a break a year from school. I had a job where there was a sign-in sheet and I used to draw all over it, and one of the guys came in and said, hey, I work at a t-shirt place. Would you be interested in coming to work for us?
Oh, that's cool.
So I was
he
like,
saw the drawing?
He saw the drawing on a sign-up sheet and said, who did this? And I said, I did it. And he was like, hey, would you be interested in maybe coming in and interviewing? And I said, yeah, sure. So I got a job there. I spent 2 years basically designing t-shirts at the University of Arkansas. It really just brought back my love for artwork, and seeing people around campus wearing my designs was amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a great thing. That made me want to take an art class as an elective, and I did that in college. And basically the teacher at the time went and talked to the dean and said, hey, this kid is pretty talented and he's taken business management, and they talked to me. This was my junior year, to my parents' delight. Mm-hmm. And I switched majors to graphic design. It was actually the very first graphic design program at the University of Arkansas.
Oh, that's cool.
So
you were the first year?
Yeah, it was first year. So I went in, they had new computers and everything. Because I changed my major so late, at the age of 21, I started bartending, and then I got into again, doing all the advertising, all the t-shirts for the bar, doing the market stuff. And then, but what kept happening was I got put into management. And I was then, after a year, managing the bars. And then I was managing 2 bars. And then I was doing just other stuff. After that, my roommate actually, at the time, him and his wife moved to Dallas, got a job at TracyLocke. And they had come back up for a big party that I used to throw. And they brought a creative director from TracyLocke back, and he was talking about, he had just shot Michael Jordan and the U.S. Olympic team for the Doritos bag and stuff. And I was just like in awe of this guy. So even though I was making really good money running 2 bars and DJing and all this stuff, I went down to Dallas and info viewed with TracyLocke. So they basically took me around. And I spent so much time when I went through TracyLocke in awe that they basically picked up on that and were like, I think this guy's a little green. Like, he needs about another year into it, and then maybe he can, become an art director or something.
So they saw the passion, the skills just weren't
exactly.
Quite
they were just like, I didn't know what a shelf talker was. I didn't know, like, if I came in, there was a lot to learn. Yeah, sure. There was a small shop called Studio 212 that worked with TracyLocke, doing a lot of their artwork and high-end stuff. So I went there. They offered me a job as kind of like, getting lunches, really. I was a project manager of sorts, assistant to the manager, getting lunches. So I worked that angle, and I used to go over to TracyLocke all the time because I'd work with, that was back before you could email stuff back and forth. So I'd take the artwork over, work with the creatives, and bring it back. So I was getting to know a lot of people. The network was going good. I would go home at night. I would sit with the artists, see what they do. I'd ask them how they did it. And then I would go home every night and practice on this crazy computer that I bought that I was in debt for the next 6 years because it was the Apple layaway plan or something.
It was an investment, though.
Yeah, it was an investment. And I would go home every night, and then I would take my work back, and I got to befriended a lot of these guys and be like, hey, this is what I did. What did you think? And that went on for about a year, and TracyLocke brought me in as a freelance artist on episode 1 for Star Wars, for the Frito stuff. So I was the comp artist for all that. So I had like CDs with all the artwork before episode 1 came out.
That's
we had all the scripts and all. It was amazing, right? We worked in a vaulted area that only people could get in. So
from drawing Star Wars on a sign-up sheet,
exactly, to doing that, like, man, I was beyond, you know, just amazing. And they had a creative imaging department that was similar to where I was at Studio 12, and I wanted to be in that. And at the time, there wasn't an opening. So Gail Obaski, who's at TracyLocke currently, she interviewed me and was like, look, if you're willing to come in and do mechanicals in the studio, when an opening comes up in CI, we'll get you in. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I don't know how to build a mechanical, but sure. So I came in, worked on the Frito team. They taught me how to build mechanicals. I was working with the clients. I was working all the big promotions like Terry Bradshaw, all that stuff, Halloween. It was great. And then basically after that, an opening came up in the creative industry department, and they moved me in there. And like my first job was drawing Jeff Gordon's car in Illustrator for a Pizza Hut box, which is pretty dope. You know, because I can call all my friends. Everybody's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Get a pizza delivered. You'll see my artwork on it." That's pretty sick. Going back from being a new kid in every school, I was like, "How do I get more people to notice me?" Because obviously, what I was doing wasn't the end goal. So I offered to work on new business. And I started doing, nobody else knew PowerPoint. I learned how to do PowerPoint. So I was working with the president of the company, the CCO of the company, all the leaders. And then I would actually fly with them to the new business pitches because I was the guy that was setting up all that stuff. And I would actually have people, I'd have people go like, you know, that's weekend work. That's working until 2, 3 in the morning. Like, that's crazy hours. A lot of my friends were like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I don't know, it's just cool to me to be able to walk down the hall and those people knew who I was. Like 100%. I went from being a kid from Arkansas that basically moved there, and I mean, I'll be honest, my first job was like $18,000. Like I literally gave everything up for 18 grand a year to somebody who was walking around the agency I wanted to work at, and the president and everything else knew my name. So it was great. So you
put in the extra hours to make further connections that would eventually help you and have people invest in you and invest in your future.
I had a really unique opportunity come up. One of the creative directors from TracyLocke left to go to Ryan Partnership, and they were growing. They were working with Nokia, and Nokia at that time was just blowing up. So they were building out their creative department. He was the new CCO, and he couldn't afford to have studio, retouch, or everything. So he wanted to bring me and one of the guys I worked with, Chris Warden, on as art directors that would do everything, which was interesting because when I started off in the business, everybody kind of looked at me like, you need to just tell them you're good at one thing. Like, nobody's going to believe you can do a lot of stuff, right? And now that was paying off. So I went to do that, worked on Nokia, designed a lot of the phone covers back when they used to pop off and stuff. I worked on Mission Foods, ran photo shoots. We didn't have print producers, did all the print production myself. We eventually did, but in the early stages, it was kind of grassroots, which was cool. It was a small, TracyLocke is a big agency. This was much more smaller, so you had to do a lot of things. And one employee of the year, which had never happened in a field office. You know, I mean, it was awesome. Like, things started to click. Like, I really felt like I got a lot of criticism from a lot of my friends for making the move for such a low amount of money, and I didn't know anybody. But because I had moved around so much as a kid, I was used to kind of that, and things just started to click, and I could start to see it paying off. A friend of mine, Chris Worthy, called me up. He worked at Dave & Buster's, and he was like, look, we have an opening for a creative supervisor on our team. Would you like to come over and interview for it? And I was like, would I? I mean, bar business, creative, advertising, like this is like my dream job, right? Like, it's made for me. So eventually they were like, cool, hired. And I went in there, and being on the marketing team for a client was an amazing experience. Like I got to sit, I saw agencies pitch us. I saw how promotions and things came out of the clients' minds and were sent to the agency, and we're on phone calls when the agency sent back. Like, it was a different side of things that I hadn't seen before. It was amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great. So I did that for 3 years, loved every minute of it. I was there a day at Dave & Buster's. I'll never forget. I was there a day, and my boss comes in and he says, hey, Dave & Buster are really not happy with this latest super shot for Kevin Garnett artwork that the vendor came back with. Do you think you could put something together? I'm like, sure, when do you need it? He's like in the next 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, so I get on like the stock photography, you know, found like a flaming basketball, worked this out, created a logo, all this stuff, gave it to him, put it on the machine, you know, did a little render and whatever, and sent it to him. And, you know, waited. And just was like, this is it. Like, either this is going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. And I remember he walked in and I was like, so how'd it go? He goes, they loved it.
Oh, thank God.
They loved it. And I was like, great. And that just took off from there. Like, I was redesigning menus. I was doing all this stuff. Like, I worked directly with Dave & Buster on a lot of stuff. Those guys were amazing to me. The business, everything about that place was amazing to me. Awesome. And then after about 3 years of what I like to call the greatest vacation of my life, I got a phone call from TracyLocke, and they said, you know, we're looking for somebody to take over your old department and like manage it, the CI department, which at the time was 2 illustrators. And I was like, well, that would be right up my alley. So I interviewed with there, and basically made an offer I couldn't refuse, and I went back to TracyLocke and ran the department that basically I'd left. About 2 years later, my boss at the time moved over to be a lead account service person on Pepsi. So they offered me the job to be the director of studio services, and that was over the entire studio. So now I'm going from 2 people to like 25 people. Moving up in a company is not an easy thing to do. I mean, a lot of people wonder why didn't they get the job. A lot of people look at you and they're like, well, this guy used to manage 2 people, now he's managed all of us. And it took time. But a lot of people always ask me, they're like, you know, being in management, you miss being creative. And, you know, I told them, I was like, I get to work with some of the most creative people there is in this business. I still do a lot of creative stuff of my own. I mean, I do. I have different websites, Instagram stuff that I've created. I created a whole YouTube channel when YouTube came out of just concert recorded videos, just so I could learn how to video edit and post to YouTube and see what YouTube was about. And when I saw people, you know, the analytics and people in Canada and you know, Japan watching my videos and stuff, you know, I mean, I have videos with like 100,000 views on it and stuff. It was a great learning experience for me. I want videos with 100,000 views. Hey, this one could do that for you, man. You Is this the one? This could be it. This could be it. The other thing in this business that a lot of people don't understand is that, unlike finance or other things where, you know, numbers and math aren't going to change. You know, Excel's been around for years. It's been upgraded, but they do use different programs. But in the creative field, things change constantly. I went to a meeting. This is how old I am. I went to a meeting where they told us about PDFs and how we were going to be able to email files. We used to FedEx everything everywhere. So how that changed everything. I've seen the iPhone come out. I went to a meeting where people were saying your clients don't necessarily need an app. Like, we're still trying to figure out if this is a fad or what this is. I went to meetings where people said the iPad wouldn't be, you know, a big deal because it's just a bigger iPhone. Like, you go to those things and you see it, and then you realize that, you know, it's changing constantly, and you got to stay. I know people that stayed with Quark that don't have jobs. I know people who know Flash and learn Flash that nobody's using Flash anymore. You know.
Yeah, you have to evolve and change with the times. Absolutely. Or you'll get left behind. You have to look beyond your desk. One of the biggest struggles I see is, and I was kind of like this way, and I think that's why I learned a lot of these programs, is you can only art direct and create to your ability of the program. If you want to make the type look like ice and you don't know how to do that in Photoshop, guess what? You're not going to have type that looks like ice. That's why I always tell people to go into the studio or do things of that nature, is because you're going to get to focus on those programs. A lot of people look down studios, and I realize not everybody has a studio, but taking those jobs that are a little bit more you know, less creative and all that stuff, that's not going to hinder you. It's going to build a good foundation. And it builds the skills. And I know a lot of art directors come out of studio because they learn the skills that they really need to become a better art director down the path. Exactly. Like Nick and Natalia and other people that have come out, like now they're amazing art directors, and it's all because they got that you know, that base.
Yeah, get used to learning new things, figure out that stuff, and it will pay dividends in the end.
100%.
It's a great, and then technology, man. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, we're sitting in a car driving around and you're videoing.
Yeah.
You know, one of these is your phone. I know I'm giving away your secrets, but I mean, that's amazing. Like, and that, you know, when I started the industry, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Like, if we wanted to do this, we'd have to hire people, and there's big cameras, and it wouldn't even, you know, work.
We have mics connected to a phone. We have a phone recording. We have another camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's just amazing, and you just got to keep up with it, because you look at AI. I mean, with Alexa coming out, the smart home device, everything's going to change.
Voice is going to be crazy.
Voice is going to be crazy. Yeah. You know, who's deciding how that works?
Advertising on VR.
What does that do to consumers when, I mean, I can't afford a Ford GT or something like that, but if it gets to the point to where I can go into a virtual world and drive my Ford GT that I bought, and it feels real to me, like, what did that do to my consumerism?
Did you see Ready Player One?
No, not yet, but
it's that.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's like, but people see that, but they don't see how is that going to affect what we buy.
Yeah.
Like, if you can buy a 3D model of a car and really experience it, does that satisfy you? Like, are you cool with that? And then you're like, well, I don't need to buy that, because next week I'll buy something else and I can change the paint job on that. So those experiences and that technology is something that, again, beyond your desk, is like, look at the bigger field and then go, all right, well, how do I get to play in those spaces? So if that's going to be the future of advertising, and I'm working on advertising, how do I get more into AI? How do I get more into VR? How do I get more into that stuff? And planning out your work that way. And just, you know, you have to be in it. If you're going to keep up with the 10-year-old that has all the spare time in the world learning 3D and video editing, you're going to have to find the time to do it.
Yeah, the YouTube generation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's changed up, but I mean, that's the other thing with YouTube. Everything's at your fingertips. You just got to keep learning. Understand that it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. Like, if you really want to be successful at it, there are people that I work with and myself that love what we do.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
I think the big thing I would plug is just TracyLocke in general. Like, I think that right there, being on the leadership team and knowing what we're building and what we have planned ahead is a great place to work. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I would plug the studio and just say that we're always looking for new talent and for people that are hungry and, you know, willing to think out of the box when it comes to working and stuff like that, and want to learn more.
So if someone's interested in studio, can they email?
Yeah, they can email markvanduinen@TracyLocke.com. Feel free, I'm on LinkedIn, and send me your resume and stuff. I've even, you know, I'm happy to, you know, if somebody just wants to do a tour or, you know, wants some more information, we can do that too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the
thanks,
show.
Joe.
All right. Well, appreciate y'all. Later.